I know better than to do this, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I fell into this reading trap while reading one of the most significant parts in the Bible. This verse is something that I'm familiar with, so I'm not making an excuse, but when you have a routine like I do, reading every single day, sharing daily devotionals, you get in this pattern of doing things and you can get caught up in just skimming over scripture because you've read it before. Again, not a good excuse, but I'm thankful that I reread this verse a number of times and then went to commentary, which I'm going to go to in just a moment, regarding crucifixion. Most know the story of Jesus being crucified. And scripture just simply says, and this is probably why it's so easy to read over it. It says, when they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes. So Jesus refused the drink, and it says, then they crucified him, just kind of brushing it off like it was no big deal. But here's the thing. It is an incredible deal to be crucified. We know what that means, but do you really know what that means? If you don't, strap yourself in, because I'm about to share with you a little bit that I've read in commentary to really, it's uncomfortable. It's pretty horrific. And no ordinary or regular person would have done what Jesus did voluntarily. And he did it out of love. Try to wrap your head around this. So before reading this, if you haven't seen The Passion of the Christ, I feel like that paints a pretty accurate representation of maybe what Jesus looked like. Because here's the thing. Most believers, I would think, have either seen, or even unbelievers, have seen Jesus on a cross, that symbol that the faith uses. I know we have one in our house, but Jesus is barely wounded. There's, a cut on his side when he was struck with the spear. That's it. He didn't look like that. He was probably covered from head to toe in blood. I mean, so gory that the details are left out. They're left out because the people that were during this time when crucifixion was so common, they knew what that meant. And I'm about to share with you what that means scientifically, what it means to be crucified. So in commentary, I read about this article that is found in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is back in the 80s, and it's called On the Physical Death of Jesus Christ. And I'm going to paraphrase some of this because it's a lot. It starts off by just saying how the Romans, they didn't invent crucifixion, but they perfected it, meaning that what they did to those victims was going to be excruciating, and it was going to be a slow, maximum amount of pain and suffering that they could experience. Keep that in mind, knowing what Jesus did. It says the victim's back was first torn open by the scourging. We read about that. And then opened again as the clotting of blood came off and the clothing was removed, again, just peeling off layers of skin, and then thrown to the ground to nail his hands to the beam, nail his feet to the beam, and then moved upright. So his back, while just ripped open, hitting this wooden beam, again, being cut open more and more throughout that process, continuing to aggravate what was already done. The driving of the nails through the wrist, it severed a large median nerve. So it says that this stimulated nerve caused bolts of pain to go through both arms, resulting in a claw-like grip in the victim's hands, pulling himself up and down as much as he could while his back would continuing to rub up against that wooden beam, trying to capture his breath, but each breath would only get worse as he continues to just reach for one more breath. Again, the nails going through your body just in itself, forget about what it hits, actually being pierced with these nails. And so the breathing was affected, the entire body, the respiratory system, everything is in complete shock, pain, and it's happening slowly. This isn't just done. This is a long, drawn-out process of agonizing and what would soon to be an exhausting death, right? Because your body just doesn't give up. It's there's more things that this includes about the process of dying through crucifixion and the things that the individual would suffer. But I couldn't help but think about, he did this. Jesus went through with this willingly. He knew what crucifixion consisted of. No wonder he was praying for another way. No wonder he was sweating to the point that it was drawing out blood, and he was in agonizing mental and spiritual warfare before this even happened. Like, he knew what this was going to look like, what he would have to experience. For someone like me, who falls short every single day, every single one of us, that's who he did it for. Knowing that a lot of us won't even put our hope and faith in him and think this is all a fairy tale. But this is not a fairy tale. This is not a happy ending. Right here, it doesn't seem like it, a happy ending. But what Jesus did, we know the ending. It provides us with a way to him for eternity. He did it for us out of love. So it will soon be a happy ending as we continue on in this story, but it didn't seem like a happy ending at the time. And surely not the way that Jesus wanted to go out in this life. I mean, he prayed again for the another way. Absolutely incredible what he did. So, again, embarrassed that I kind of skimmed right over this verse because I've read it so many times and I'm familiar with it. But let this just be a reminder of how significant it was that Jesus was crucified. Absolutely horrific, very uncomfortable to read about. I encourage you to look at this article if you really want to be, your eyes open to what Jesus really did, the extent of what he did, to really understand and appreciate. That's, I guess, for me, like, I don't want to take it for granted what he did for me. And so I'm proud to say that my hope and faith is in him, because no one would go through with what Jesus went through, especially when he was being spit on and mocked all the while through the process. But he still maintained his integrity. He still maintained all of this out of love for someone like you, for someone like me.